G'day legends, I hope that you're having a great week and that you're doing well. Again, a disclaimer, as with anything you see online, images, videos, statements, just take it all with a grain of salt, particularly now, as some are purposely there to misinform and others are factually correct but use very leading language to set the tone for the remainder of the report, especially now with so much fog of war surrounding events. And this includes myself. I don't have a set agenda, and no, I'm not paid by a foreign intelligence service, but no human is exempt from bias, and being a solo creator, I do increase my chances of making mistakes. I'll try and correct these as I notice, as people notify me of them. And I'm going to go over some highly speculative information today, and this is from a source that has been correct on many things previously. And again, I'm not sitting in the Pentagon, so I can only report on what I'm told, see, hear, and what makes sense, what seems to add up. So I can't wait for their forever influx of hate mail to my account. So let's get into it. Now, I can't share everything currently, as some of the information tying this together is coming by secure means in the next couple of days. But I am being told that everything is going to plan. It was a success. The noise is diversionary. Russians staged destroyed vehicles. Partisans will be more active soon. And enemy forces massing in Kremenar, taking troops from Mariupol. Watch and see is all I can say. Another force has said to me that they cannot tell me anything at this point, but I can say the reason this op happened in part is because of the failure of the Ukrainian offensive around Bakhmut. I'll get a full sit rep in hopefully about 24 hours, but there's some other highly speculative information I've got, but I'm going to wait for more clarification before I share that information, because it definitely needs clarification. The way I interpret it could be vastly incorrect from what it's actually saying. So I'll sit on that one for the time being. Now, these statements are all to do with the crossing we saw over the past 48 plus hours into Belgorod, saying these are Russian citizens fighting alongside Ukraine, although said to be independent of the Ukrainian forces when conducting missions into Russian territory, as we've seen in both Bryansk and Belgorod from two sources, the RSV and the Russian Legion. From what I've gathered talking to a few people who are way more versed into reconnaissance operations than I am, this could have been a distraction operation from other movements somewhere else, whether that being equipment moving or, as a friend has said, possibly a recon team moving further into Russia at a separate location to rendezvous with partisans or set up overwatch positions. Again, I'm not saying this did happen, but I have a lot of friends who work or have worked in this space, and that's their analysis of why this mission occurred, other than the obvious embarrassments caused the Russian forces and the media win for Ukraine. So let's have a look at the maps and see what it is showing, and we'll look over a couple of things. But of course, in the centre we have Ukraine, the capital of Kiev. Red areas occupied since 22, and purple since 14, the green areas that have been liberated by Ukraine. So down here we have Bakhmut, and here we have Belgorod. We've got Romania, Poland, Belarus, and Russia around here. So let's zoom in on Belgorod at where we saw yesterday, where we were looking at where this came over the border into Russia. So today it is not showing any movement, and it's not showing any of these other movements that were shown on some of the Ukrainian maps also. So yesterday what we did see was this come out. The day before we saw less, so up through Glatovo, Kolzinka said to be occupied by the Ukrainian forces at one point, but as of last night and then today we have this completely drawn back into Ukrainian borders. So is anyone still in these locations? Well, from these maps, it is not showing so. On the ISW, this is the same area here. We're looking in this area here. It has never shown any green or blue or anything on this side. So the ISW hasn't been tracking this as well. So let's have a look and see if we have the Rybar update from today. And where we're looking is down in this region here, and it's not showing anything crossed over. So again, it is very hard to get an idea of exactly what is happening here. Now, we have also War Mapper from yesterday and today. So we saw this as yesterday, the 23rd of April. We see where the Russian legions pushed into this region here, and as well as the area of Grey Zone. But as of today, the 24th, from War Mapper as well, we see that they have been pushed out and back across the border, and there is no remaining forces or area held in this region. But these maps is what we will have to work with at the moment. Now, let's have a look at Bakhmut and see what is happening down there. As we do know, there has been some movement around here and a lot of speculation, but we will talk about some more of that stuff about the crossing into Belgorod in a second. So this is the situation we see currently, and we go back to the 22nd, and then what have we seen over the past couple of days? So what we see between the 22nd, 24th, we see Russia just get a little bit of ground up around this MiG-17 statue, but this is similar to what Rybar and ISW show in the same region. But we have also seen Ukraine take some more positions on the southern flank here as well, and some small ground up on the northern flank as well. Now, many are saying that Bakhmut is technically strategically encircled by the Ukrainian forces at this point, and personally from the map I just don't see this. I know a lot of people see this differently, and there's people significantly more versed in military doctrine than I am, and as well a lot more clever than I am, but most of the people I see claiming this have no experience in that. But I also just don't see how this is encircled. The same people who never said that Bakhmut was encircled are now saying that this is encircled the opposite way. So I don't know. These flanks falling is a realistic possibility, that these flanks could, fall to the east and Bakhmut could come back under control of the Ukrainian forces, or could end up surrounded. But at this point, I don't see that happening day to day. Currently, there's just not enough movement. Could it happen? Absolutely. At this point, I would not say that this area is surrounded. A big discussion point online has been the image of these two stuck Humvees, some saying that they were destroyed by Russian forces, and others say this was set up by Russian forces. Now, I actually haven't made up my mind on this yet, so we're going to turn over to the most credible source, being Twitter. But I do think these are two fairly convincing arguments, and maybe it'll help you make up your mind, or you can just stay as confused as I am. So we have this first one here. Now, this is the photograph. We are talking about these two Humvees here at the border crossing in Belgorod. Now, it says that the Russian government released a photo of the alleged Belgorod insurgents vehicle after a battle. I used to be a tow truck operator. This is why this is staged. These vehicles didn't crash into the trench, and I'll explain why. Now, we're going to go over this and then another one as well. So there's no gravel stuck in the tyre tread, in fact no dirt in the tyres at all. This was loaded into that trench off a flatbed and carefully choreographed in place. Not even low budget war movie production would be this sloppy with the realism. So it's showing here that there is no mud or dirt on these tyres. Now, so this Humvee slammed into the trench wall head on, but no soil was pushed out of it, which you would have even if it hit at 10 miles per hour. It's a heavy vehicle. It's going to displace soil on impact. This vehicle was placed there off a flatbed, so saying that it hasn't pushed up any of this dirt here, as this heavy vehicle could have pushed up the dirt as it ramped down into this. But I should say as well, it doesn't exactly mean that the front actually had an impact here. From being a four-wheel driver myself, sometimes you go down in something like this and something underneath the vehicle or your differential or something gets caught and your front doesn't impact, saving me money when that happens to me. But number 4. How did the front tyre get over the trench but the rear wheels didn't, especially since the other vehicle nose-dived in? Not only that, but it didn't leave any tyre tracks. In fact, the tyre never touched the ground at all. Remarkable, since it crossed the trench. So what he's saying here is, how's this wheel up as this one's gone front in? Well, they're in different areas of the trench, so different pieces could have collapsed, but I get his overall thing, and saying that there's no tyre tracks leading up before it, that it could have been lowered in, as well as that, what he says, choreographed carefully for propaganda. Now, number 5, but this takes the cake. See that display soil? That's from movement of the tyre from your right to left in the photo. The direction of the arrow I drew. That's from shoving it sideways into the trench from the front of the vehicle semi-diagonally. So saying that this was put down and then moved to right to left as you're seeing it, and this is soil displaced from here. Now, one thing I will say about this is I don't think this is as convincing as he says. Now, it definitely looks like it could be that, but that is a fairly big footprint for these tyres here, and I do think that this could be, and I'm not saying it is this, but I'm saying it could definitely be water or fluid or oil on the ground here. It looks like maybe this side of the tyre could be damp. I don't know. I'm not trying to convince you either way. I'm just saying what I see, and I think that this, with being up like this, it could have drained down here and leaked fluid out somewhere, maybe radiator fluid or whatever, but this is up to you. Number 6, this is how they did it. They used a flatbed, truck and crane, lowered the vehicles into position and pushed them by hand into a more dramatic pose. They probably captured these vehicles in Ukraine months ago, or got them from Iran, who captured them from, I can't say that word, who captured them in Iraq. And then there's the usual Twitter fighting going on from here. And then I saw this post, which was actually a rebuttal to that, and I thought this was very interesting as well. That's why I share both sides, to try and get an idea of this. So I'm skeptical of this evaluation for a couple of reasons. First is that pretty much all the vehicles involved with the operation passed over this trench area. It would be the obvious place to go if you were retreating, as it's one of the two paths out. And this was footage from the drone we spoke about yesterday here as well, showing this trench system through here and the vehicles. And this is the photograph from another angle here, as we see. The first photo was from the very front of this, and this photo is from the back left. The second reason is that there is dirt in the tread. Contrary to the thread and the camera angle, it may not be as you would expect, but considering all the other vehicles pass through here and they have similar levels of dirt, it wouldn't surprise you. So it has these other photos of these vehicles showing no dirt on the wheel, little dirt on the wheels, maybe some dust, and then this photograph of these two vehicles here being from above, where they are stuck with dirt on this wheel, where he said it is sputtered in the front here but no damage, and this wheel up in the air. As you can see, there are some dirt on the tyres here, but no more or less than the other photos that this Archie bloke is showing. Now, third reason, they're operating Humvees with both camos at the border checkpoint. There is two paths out, by road or by path they made. I think they took the paths they made. Now, this is more footage of these vehicles in this area as well, and the camouflage, they're saying, of the vehicle. So they're operating both in the camos. So fourth reason, and more regarding the fact they are unique losses, is that there is no matching recorded Humvee losses for the one on the right. I might make a thread showing why for every candidate. The fifth reason, the nearby AMZ Dizak 2 was clearly disabled in that spot prior to the drone footage. With the 3 from the drone strike plus that, there really isn't any reason for them to go to the effort of adding 2 Humvees to that spot. So this is the footage we see of this disabled vehicle here, as this one is here as well. Now, sixth reason is it's not even a kilometre from the border, well within artillery range and range of the Ukrainian drones, which recorded them crossing there in the first place. If you're going to bring in a flatbed, you're risking death by drone or artillery, and you're well within visual range of the border. You should almost expect that there is Ukrainian FPV drones watching that area at all times. Now, I do think that this is a really good point. We have drone footage of all of this as well. This war is the most recorded war we've ever seen. Drones, smartphones, cameras, journalists, everything on once put online, and there's no footage of a flatbed crane and moving this in, and that would be really good optics for the Ukrainian side of this, or the Russian Legion, to say, hey, look, they're even faking this. This has been recorded. We know that this was recorded in, and there's no footage of that. That would have taken time to set up and put there, and as well, that flatbed would have become a target. The guys moving them, military guys, would have become a target for these FPV drones or drones in the region as well. Now, seventh reason, Russia is bad at doing these fake losses. They almost always get details like camo, vehicle type, damage patterns wrong. The most we have right now is someone who's worked with flatbeds claiming the dirt is wrong. They may be right, but the point is the damage patterns are believable. They didn't fake it. Something actually blew up. The camo is accurate. The location is plausible. The types of vehicles is accurate. I would love to be wrong about this. And here we go. Update. The video of the BTR-2 retreating shows that the path where the Humvees were probably is the only path out from the checkpoint. I can't tell if the Humvees, but there is definitely visible vehicles there following the retreat. So this was from the video of the BTR-82 that they took as a trophy from that area and drove back into Ukraine, and there are vehicles here looking like they could be stuck. So, and I think both of these are fairly convincing arguments, hence why I say I haven't made up my mind on this. But as you see, one got very little attention and one got massive attention as well. So it's very hard to say exactly what happened, but I thought that was an interesting thing, and it's very interesting to see people on Twitter actually having a useful conversation back and forward. But what do you think of this? Right, so enough with that. What is actually happening today? Well, we're sort of in this period of unknown. We don't know when offensives will start on a large scale, or if these are already started, but in a number of smaller attacks, framing things, shaping things for it to come. But one interesting thing from today was a video released, seemingly a kamikaze drone boat, and yes, you heard that correctly, being intercepted by a Russian Navy ship and then exploding. We've seen these kamikaze boats used previously by Ukraine. This ship is said to be the surveillance ship Armoured Kerch, which they say was attacked by 3 of these drone boats and successfully intercepting all 3, although there is only footage of one being intercepted and explosion. Now, how do we know it was this ship? Well, it's off this specific antenna. Now I have a folder here called I'm on a boat, and this is from Geolocated, who is a great source of this, that there's this Christmas tree looking antenna on this boat that we see in the footage, and I can't show the footage because YouTube, hate me, I can't show anything. And this is the same antenna that we see in these locations here. So that is what they're using as to say it is this surveillance ship as well. This ship is in the Black Sea Fleet, which will become more relevant as we talk about this. So far, I haven't seen any solid geolocation of where this actually is, and I don't think we will. But according to Rybar and other Russian sources, this ship just crossed out of the Bosphorus through Turkey and then was engaged. Now, Rybar also claims that NATO recon aircraft were working in the Black Sea. So this is the map we have from Rybar here, being very Russian sources. So this is the Bosphorus through here. This is the Black Sea. This is the Bosphorus through, and this is the way in and out of the Black Sea. We, of course, have the Sea of Azov up here. Now, this is where the attempted strike of the Vankur's medium-sized reconnaissance ship was said to occur. And as you can see, it's just out of this Bosphorus Strait through here. And as this map is saying here, that there are a number of surveillance aircraft above this region at the time. And they're drawing conclusions to this of targeting and so on and so forth. But we're going to talk about that more in a second. Now, wrongfully, people are reporting no military ships can cross through the Bosphorus. And this is incorrect. Many are under the impression that all military vessels are banned from crossing through the Bosphorus with no exception. But a military ship can traverse through the strait if its home port is in the Black Sea, and therefore Russia's Black Sea Fleet can move through the Bosphorus, although there are rules around aircraft carriers and some types of ships. This is called the Montreux Convention. Now, the Montreux Convention is an agreement signed in 1936 that controls the passage of ships through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles, which connect the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. Now, Turkey has said it would not prevent Russian warships from entering the Black Sea if Russia claimed they were returning to their home port, and this is in line with the Montreux Convention. Now, the Turkish Foreign Minister, Mevlut, I can't pronounce his last name, has said, if the ship of the war country will return to its port, an exemption is made. We will implement all the provisions of the Montreux with transparency. Now, Russia does have complete naval dominance of the Black Sea, and I don't see why this ship specifically was engaged if it was so close to Turkey just out of the Bosphorus. There are many other ships in Crimea's docks. The grain deals are critical for Ukraine's economy and also critical for the world's supply of grain, as Ukraine makes up a huge percentage of the grain and wheat and other agricultural products globally, having a specifically large impact on the most vulnerable countries. Now, targeting ships so close could definitely risk Turkey and Russia working with Ukraine and the UN on these deals, especially as last week we know that Russia signed an agreement for another 2-month extension of the deal that has allowed Ukraine to ship grain through the Black Sea and, of course, out the Bosphorus, although Russia is still playing hardball due to sanctions placed against it. Now, Russia does not have any sanctions placed specifically against the export of these grains, oil and other agricultural stuff, but does have sanctions on their payment systems like SWIFT and insurance on the boats, in which is driving up the cost of these items. Now, this leads to an idea of that it is a potential false flag event in which it could give Russia the ammunition to end deals and drag its heels further. I really don't know, because sailing a speeding boat full of explosives towards your ship seems a little bit sketchy as well. Now, there is nothing in the footage that indicates it is faked, so we're just going to have to wait this one out and see what comes. Now, this video is very easy to find everywhere, and it will be in my Telegram as well, I'm sure. But so I saw this drone kamikaze boat here coming towards this boat in an aggressive pattern, trying to dodge. These are tracer rounds coming in here, set off a 14.5mm naval gun, and then it was engaged. I think this will probably be the next photo. It exploded in a massive fireball, and then this was the remnants here. You can still see some of the trace rounds, and none of this footage shows anything that could be doctored or could be fake. There's also been a lot of smoke seen around the Kerch Strait Bridge. This is the bridge that is connecting Crimea to mainland Russia here, so through this region here. There's been a lot of smoke rising from this, and some angles show that it could be an attack on the bridge, but it does appear to be unrelated from the video footage and reports from the attack on this Navy craft, and it does seem to show that it is a military exercise. And the smoke is being created artificially here, that's moving across the Kerch Strait Bridge here, maybe to create some sort of smoke screen, but seriously, I don't know. Kind of unrelated, but I think interesting, is Russia has a number of inland deep water systems, which can be another way for warships of a certain size and submarines sitting on the surface to move between seas. Now, I won't go into the full history of this dating back centuries, but a quick definition is a unified deep water system of the European Russia. The EGTC is the system of inland waterways of Russia, linking the White Sea, the Baltic Sea, the Volga, Moscow, the Caspian Sea, the Sea of Azov, to the Black sea, so throughout Russia. Now, the guaranteed depth throughout the EGTC are not less than 4.5 metres, allowing passage through it, not only by river vessels and River Sea class, but many seagoing vessels, warships, even nuclear submarines on the surface. And if you actually come into some of these regions and go on Google Street View, you can actually see large ships moving through these systems. Now, Deputy Defence Intelligence Chief Vadim Skibitsky told German publication Welt in an interview today, said Putin is at the top of their hit list. When asked about the relationship with Prigozhin, he replied, "We're trying to kill him." Also saying, but in the end, everyone will have to answer for their actions. Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov and Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu planned the attack, and now they cannot turn back. When asked where is the limit, can a civilian be killed? An oligarch, a propagandist, the reply was, "We're at war and these are our enemies. If an important figure manufactures and finances weapons for Russia, then his elimination would save the lives of many civilians." According to the international conventions, this is a legitimate goal. This comes the same day as the New York Times released an article titled "Ukrainians are likely behind the drone attacks on the Kremlin" that came in the week prior to the Victory Day parades, in which we've talked about in length about how this could take place, the motives for a false flag or a legitimate mission. Now, I still have an email I need to get to that is fully breaking down how this could happen from a specialist working exactly in this space. And that will come soon, I promise. I've just been sitting on it. Now, the New York Times report, US intelligence has low level of confidence in the theory that the Kremlin orchestrated the attack. But that is because intelligence agencies do not yet have the specific evidence identifying which government officials, Ukrainian units or operatives were involved. New York Times was told by a US official some Ukrainian covert operatives work largely independently and without direct supervision from Zelensky or his top deputies, and the extent to which Zelensky is aware of them in advance is unclear. As such, US officials believe that Zelensky and his top officials have set broad parameters for covert campaigns, leaving decisions about who and what to target to the security services and their operatives, allowing them to have plausible deniability should they end up in public. But what do we know? Well, sweet fuck all. But I do enjoy talking to you lads here, so if you like being here and want to support me, there's links down below, but never feel obliged. And if you've got to this point, well, thank you very much. But I really do hope you have a great day. Thank you for all your support, as always. So I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye-bye.